Hi there, it's Bruce Wallace from Dundee and Victoria Chess Club in Bonnie, Scotland, and we've got a treat for you here. It's a game between our club champion Alistair Dawson, and Alistair's rated 1831, against Alan Tate, who's rated 2129, so much stronger than Alistair. And this game was played in the East of Scotland Championships in the Open section on the 5th of May 2007, and we're going to have to move through it fairly quickly because we only have 10 minutes for videos on YouTube. So Alistair opened with c4. He said that he had been working on the use of the English, and I based my comments on the annotated game that Alistair has provided for our club website. So Alan replied c5, which is the symmetrical English. Alistair played g3, then knight c6, bishop g2, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e3, and Alistair had a choice there of knight f3, but he decides that he'll play e3 and then he'll play knight g to e2 on this square. e5, and on that move, Alistair said that the die was more or less cast with that move. White eyes the d5 square, and he also prepares e3, a3 to provoke a5, which would also give him a hole on b5, and it's about how we'd go about exploiting those holes. So Alistair's fairly happy at this point. He plays knight g to e2 as planned. Black reciprocates. You can see the similarities in position here. The only major difference here is in pawn structure slightly. a3 by Alistair. Castles, and Alistair plays rook b1. a5 by black, preventing b4. Castles, d6, b3, and then rook b8 by black. However, my analytical assistant suggests instead of rook b8, bishop g4 possibly, when white could reply f3, bishop back to e6, d3, queen d7, and this is absolutely equal. A very slight minus for white, always indiscernible. Nevertheless, Alistair played e4, and when he played e4, he comments in his annotations that this was a little bit of panic on his part, because he was considering that black had possibilities of breaking open after knight b5 with d5, but perhaps not. So, for example, let's look at that line. Instead of e4, knight b5, d5, c takes d, knight takes d, queen c2, b6, and a slight minus for white, not massive. So perhaps that was playable, but the e4 move again is very equal, so a good move by Alistair. Then h6 by black. Now my analytical assistant says that this is actually the best move that could have been played after e4, and actually recommends f5, opening the position immediately. But it doesn't discernibly alter the balance of the game according to the assistant. Alistair replied d3, bishop e6, and then Alistair just developed his bishop, queen d7, queen d2, king here to support the pawn, which is more or less forced. So black could have played h5, and then a5 by Alistair. Now, this wasn't what was recommended. Instead of a5, what did my assistant recommended? f4 by white, opening position in turn, and then you would have b6, knight to d5, f6, knight e to c3, f5, b4, a takes b, knight to d4, rook to b2, and the position is absolutely equal. There isn't a difference at all. However, after a4, black continued with knight to d4, knight to d5, chops, pawn takes, and bishop here. So really there's no way of saving the bishop, otherwise it would drop the rook. So Alistair takes the bishop, and the queen comes in, and Alistair said, commented in his annotations, that he wasn't particularly worried because he thought he had enough counterplay to stave off any major danger here, and had counter threats himself. But he has to take the knight because knight f3 was threatened, with mate to follow. C takes d4, queen a5, and Alistair pointed out in his notes that given that black was concentrating on the king side, he'd taken his eye off the a5 pawn, so white is actually now material up. Now black opens the position, f5, and then f4 by Alistair. Now f3 was actually recommended by the assistant, giving a line thus: f takes e, and then rook c8, rook b to e1, and in fact, according to this, white is fine, 0.46, so half a pawn ahead, an actual whole pawn up, although black has some initiative. However, Alistair played f4, and this gives a big minus, actually 1.64. So f takes e4, f takes e5, and black here takes the e pawn, attacking the knight. Now the assistant recommends here actually d takes e5, d takes e4, queen g4, and really it's very difficult to actually protect the e pawn. This gives an advantage of black of 2.18. I don't think there's any way that this pawn can be held. The knight can't defend it, neither can the rooks, so it's going to drop. The queen can't come back. But black missed this line himself, so even a 2,200 player misses things like that. So white played knight f4. Now white's position is looking quite dangerous here. It's more or less equal again, and that knight's very strong, eyeing e6 and also g6, and hitting the queen. So what does black do? Exchanges the knight for a rook. Rook takes, he takes e5, rook f7, and this was a move that Alistair said he couldn't work out a winning line against. Alistair thinks he's winning here, but the best move is rook c8, coming down the open file, and Alistair plays a very good move here, although queen b4 is recommended by the assistant. He plays d6, and this is setting up what Alistair saw as a drawing line following black's next move. Which was rook c2, and this threatens an immediate mate on g2. I suppose there isn't very many possibilities for good defence here, not with the advanced pawns. These pawns are very dangerous. So white bails out here. Can anybody see it? I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rook takes g7 check. King has to take, and Alistair said he'd analyse this drawing line, and that draws because of queen takes e5 check. The king can't really come to the f file because rook check here is going to mate. So it's basically a perpetual or a threefold repetition in the corner. And a very impressive performance by Alistair. very, very slight positional mistakes by both players, but overall a tremendous performance. And Alistair concludes that basically the Symetrical English defence proves very hard to break down, even for the strongest players. A half point well won, Alistair. See you soon.